Hello, everyone. My name is Suzanne Hume, and I'm the Educational Director and founder of CleanEarthForKids.org. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We'll start with Leanna.
Thank you, Suzanne. Hi, everyone. My name is Leanna, and I'm a part of the youth board here at Clean for Kids. And at Clean for Kids, we have 6 teams. Team 1 is about climate action. Team 2 is about lands, wildlife, parks, trees. Team 3 is about clean air. Team 4 is about water, protecting water. Team 5 is about stopping toxic pesticides and chemicals. And Team 6 is about zero waste and reducing plastics. And most importantly, racial, social, climate, and environmental justice are vital to everything we do and are integrated into all of our teams. So I'm personally on Team 1, and we focus on climate action plans, renewable energy, and sustainability. And one of the things we do are specifically our action plans. So you can see our action plans on our website at cleanforkids.org. I'll put the link in the chat for that. And our action plan can consist of many things for different communities or schools, states, cities, so many different applications for these plans. An example of an action plan could help set 100% renewable energy goals, or different transportation initiatives, or things like a no idling resolution, as done previously before. This is really important because we need to stop burning fossil fuels that pollute our air and water and cause things like greenhouse gases to accumulate so we can meet our climate and environmental goals. So an action you can take is to ask President Biden and Congress to remove nuclear power from the American jobs plan. So right now there are $200 billion in nuclear power subsidies in President Biden's proposal, even though nuclear power is not necessarily a solution to climate change and is not completely needed, as seen by Mark C. Jacobson's amazing work at Stanford. Global 100% renewable energy is possible without fossil or nuclear power. And nuclear power violates so many climate justice and human rights. So we hope he will use the $200 billion to support clean renewable energy like wind and solar power. We also joined the Sierra Club and many others in opposing nuclear, and we have more information for that on our website, Clean for Kids, underneath Team 1. I will also drop the petition link for that in the chat after I'm done speaking. And the next thing is talking about sustainability goals. Here's the slide of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. And these are basically a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all, as stated by the United Nations. They address the global challenges we face, including those related to poverty, inequality, climate change, environmental degradation, peace, and justice. So all of these goals are interconnected, and they really focus on that aspect in order to make sure that no one is left behind and no single issue is left behind. And it's important that we achieve all 17 of these by 2030 to create a more sustainable future for everyone. And if you go to the United Nations website, you can click on any specific goal to learn more about each issue. And we hope you will join us and other organizations working on these issues. I'll go through a few of them right now. SDG number 13 is about climate action, and it's about taking urgent action to combat climate change and its related impacts. SDG 14 is called Life Below Water, and it's meant to conserve and sustainably use our oceans, seas, and marine sources for sustainable development. This might mean sustainable fisheries, and making sure that we protect what goes into these waters and what's near these waters, making sure they don't get polluted. And SDG 15 is Life on Land, which is protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems and sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation and halt biodiversity loss. So lots of really important things. And this week's World Environment Day celebrations include the launch of the United Nations Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, and they have host countries celebrating things like in areas like Pakistan and a bunch of different events worldwide. So the first event will be this Friday at 7 a.m. and it's the decade on ecosystem restoration. And then the second one will be this Friday, and it's the celebrations in Pakistan. I will put those in the chat right now, if you guys would like to find out more information about those. And these next 10 years are really important, and going to these worldwide celebrations, you'll be able to hear a lot of inspiring messages from world leaders, activists, celebrities, and musical performances. So some speakers include the Prime Minister of Pakistan, the Chancellor of Germany, Pope Francis, the UN Secretaries General, young champions of the earth, a nine-year-old environmentalist and artist, Romero Valentin, and a lot of goodwill ambassadors, as well as a lot of scientists, such as Jane Goodall, and many, many more. So we're excited to hear and learn more from them as well. And we can also talk about Pakistan's 10 billion, yes, I said 10 billion tree drive, which is amazing. There's going to be a link to watch it, the broadcast that they're going to have for that. I'll put that in the chat right now for all of you guys. That's really exciting. I mean, 10 billion trees, it's amazing to just think about. And this is being hosted in Pakistan because they are the host country for World Environment Day of 2021. And they're celebrating a lot of milestones. One is the completion of these planting of these trees that started in 2018 as an initiative to fight climate change. And they've already planted 1 billion trees in just 2 years. So if they can do it, I think other countries can also set a similar goal as well. And they also have taken the Bond Challenge, which is a global effort to restore over 350 million acres of the world's degraded and deforested lands by 2020, and over 860 million acres by 2030. So they're doing a lot of amazing stuff, as well as just creating their first marine protected area, the Astola Island and the waters around it. So they're now protecting 22 species of corals and dolphins, whale, and different fish species as well. And it also protects where green sea turtles lay their eggs. So really amazing stuff going on in Pakistan, and really excited to see what else they're going to also contribute. And I will put the link to the official celebration. Oh, I already did in the chat. Sorry about that. And for this type of event, there's also more speakers like the Minister of Environment of Egypt, the UN Special Envoy for the Ocean, and the Prince of Monaco. So lots of different people from different areas of different titles coming in for the specific celebration of the World Environment Day, which are also partner launch events as well. And there's a lot of different virtual sessions that we'll also put the links in for the chat and other global events. But for now, here's Abby to talk about community service.
Hi, everyone. My name is Abby. I'm an intern here at Clean Earth for Kids. Thank you, Leanna, for introducing me. We want to welcome students to come and earn community service. You can take notes, create infographics, art, music, video clips, much like myself, poetry about what you've learned. And on our YouTube channel, you can see over 50 of our panel discussions, and we also have a lot more information on our website, cleanearthforkids.org. We also welcome college students, much like myself, or adults to fill out applications to intern or volunteer with us. And we can drop the link for that in the chat. There's more information involving volunteering and interning on our website. So is that link in the chat already? I can drop that. Thank you. We also have a lot of great ways for you to get involved in terms of contests. So we have a contest for poetry and dance. If you go to our contest page at cleanearthforkids.org, you'll see a variety of contests. We have art, music, writing, poetry, dance, STEM, infographics, presentations, and a lot more. The link for our contest page will be dropped in the chat as well. I also just did a video about our contest, which will be on our YouTube page. It kind of details every single contest and a little bit more about them, much like we'll do right now in this panel. So we also have our Today Is contest. It is our calendar contest. It's a way for you to show your art, music, videos, research reports, and much more, anything that you have related. So you can tell us more about the important days that are happening. So in June. As you can see here, we have World Reef Awareness Day, World Bicycle Day, and so much more. So if you have anything involving any of those days or you know a lot about them, feel free to send it on in. Please remember to fill out a waiver. We have our entry forms. When you enter our contests and challenges, this allows us to be able to share your work. And the waiver can be found on our website, and we'll also drop that in the chat. And then here's Jillian to talk about our These Are the Hands contest.
Thank you so much. So the These Are the Hands contest is a contest that's open to everyone of all ages. We hope you will join us in making a drawing or decorating a hand to recognize, honor, and lift up people working for change and making life better for others. Everyone is encouraged to participate and to honor someone for making positive difference in your school, your community, your city, your state, or our world. You can draw and decorate a picture of a hand, add symbols, words, pictures, anything to honor their work. We all want to protect what we love, and we have a contest called Protect What You Love. You can protect what you love by sending us your pictures or drawings of what you love and why we should protect it. We can work together to protect forests and national parks, wildlife, clean water, clean air, oceans, rivers, streams, and our health. And we can work together to stop toxic pesticides, pollution, plastics, and the destruction of our public lands.
Hi, I'm Anna T. I'm an intern here with Clean Earth for Kids, and we want to alert you about a petition to ask Florida and federal officials to deny Burnett Oil's permit for drilling into the Big Cypress Preserve and the Raccoon Point. So the Burnett Oil is asking for a 30-year permit to drill into Seminole land in the Everglades, home to animals like the endangered Florida panther. And drilling would also threaten the water supply of millions. So we're going to put the petition link into the chat. So the Everglades are in Florida. They are the largest subtropical wilderness in the United States, and there are at least 9 different ecosystems that work together in the Everglades. It's full of wildlife. There are many endangered or threatened species there. So the Florida panther is one of the most endangered animals in the world. Less than 100 Florida panthers live outside of the zoos. So if you want to protect the Everglades or the Florida panther or any other animals really, you have the opportunity to do research and share why we should protect what we love. So students can work in teams or partners or independently. And biodiversity is very important. There are all types of particular habitat or ecosystem. A healthy ecosystem has a lot of biodiversity. So another contest that we have here at Clean Earth for Kids is our Picture It contest. You can take a picture or draw or write about your favorite animal or place and why we should protect it. So we can post it on our website and social media and bring awareness and work to protect nature and our environment. And then you can also post the pictures you see in nature. We'll call this contest an activity and we call it Picture It. We also have another contest, Nature Journal. You can do a nature journal and it's a sketch, or you can identify and record what you see in nature. Nature journals are a lot of fun, especially for people who like to draw or research. Our board member, Jay, still has the nature journal he made years ago when he went on a trip to Australia. So that's really cool. And we have a sample journal as well. Yeah, see it there. People like to make their own planners and add special days from the calendar. And yeah, it looks super cool. Submit what you'd like to do. And now we're going to hear from Elijah to talk about why clean air is important and actions that we are taking here at Clean Earth for Kids.
Thanks, Anna. I would like to talk about why clean air is important. Clean air is important because everybody needs clean air to breathe to be healthy. We also need rules and laws that would not allow people or corporations to pollute the air. Also, there are things that we can do for this. We can learn about how to stop air pollution and spread awareness. One of the ways we could do this is our no idling contest for K through 12 students. We would like students to make no idling signs to remind people to turn off their engines when they are parked. Also, we would like cities, schools, businesses to post no idling signs. Parking lots to remind people to turn off their engines when they are parked. And air pollution is harmful to people and bees, like insects, birds, animals that pollinate our plants and crops. We have information on our no idling page and on our cleanerforkids.org website. In California, Cal EPA is in charge of all environmental issues. We want to give a special thank you to the California Air Resource Board for all their hard work and our grant to pay for no idling signs in Oceanside and Vista school districts, along with trees, education campaigns, and more. Speaking of CARB, an action you can take about car exhaust is to sign a petition to ask the EPA to give states back the right to set strong clean air standards. I would also like to thank them for helping support us in working to create no idling signs in Vista Unified and Oceanside and radio ads. On a different note, remember when the Trump administration tried to take away California's right to protect the air from toxic pollution? The EPA is considering overturning the Trump administration's ban on California and the 13 other states' authority to set tailpipe pollution standards stronger than federal regulations. Leanna, you made a video on our YouTube channel talking about this rollback. Could you please tell us more about this tailpipe pollution rule and why it is so important to you?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Elijah. So previously, as Elijah mentioned, the Trump administration banned California's authority to set a tailpipe pollution standard that was stronger than federal regulations. And this was because California had set the standard long before the Clean Air Act. And so when the Clean Air Act was set, they allowed them to keep that standard and also allowed other states the choice to follow that standard over the federal regulation if they wanted to. So when the Trump administration banned this, it was a huge loss for the environmental movement, as those really strong standards could not be other states couldn't follow anymore, and California had to follow the federal regulation, which was not as well put together, and it wasn't as environmentally sound. And the stronger the regulation, the better it's going to be for our air. It's going to be cleaner air and less pollution overall, which is great for the environment. So it's really exciting to hear that the EPA is now overturning this ban, and that this will be reinstated so that California and about the 13 other states that also follow that set standard can continue using that standard that is much stronger than the federal regulations. So it's really important that this is back, and hopefully it will never be banned again, and hopefully federal regulations will catch up to these really strong tailpipe pollution standards that California has set. And with that being said, I'll let Julian take over.
Thank you, Leanna. So for over 50 years, states have led the way on clean car standards, like California requiring all new passenger vehicles to be zero emission by 2035. And we're going to put a petition in there for you to sign that deals with some of these laws that are being signed into place. So you can definitely take that action. And with that, I'm going to introduce myself a little bit, as well as talk to you guys about the toxic pollution that comes from burning coal, specifically mercury. So I am a junior at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, which is all the way in North Carolina. I am studying public health, and because I'm studying public health, I understand that clean air is so important. So mercury, which we've talked about a lot on these panels, is a chemical that's found naturally in water, soil, and the air. However, thanks to activities like drilling for oil and fossil fuel combustion, we've seen a spike in mercury pollution in the air. This mercury goes on to settle in our water and in our soil and contaminate our food and our drinking water. Mercury is a neurotoxin, meaning it does damage to the nervous system, which includes the brain. Those most sensitive to mercury poisoning are children still in the womb and young children that are still developing. These while everyone can experience negative symptoms, those are the populations that we worry about most when it comes to mercury poisoning. And mercury pollution has become such a problem that organizations like the World Health Organization and the EPA have published data and resources to call for action against mercury pollution. And speaking of mercury pollution and air pollution in general, I would like to give a little update to everybody about the situation that's going on at my university. So UNC Chapel Hill is one of the last, or actually I believe the last university to have a functioning coal power plant near or on campus in the state of North Carolina. And the university has been in trouble previously because they've disregarded pollution regulations and the safety of their citizens in Chapel Hill. So with that being said, some action is starting to take place. There are groups on campus that are working to try and combat some of this deregulation that's going on. If you're interested, you can contact me afterwards and I can get you some emails that you can write to the Alumni Association as well as to groups on campus that are working to fight some of this stuff. And I invite you to participate in the Call It Out Challenge with me. So the Call It Out Challenge is this challenge where you get to call out via art or music or some sort of media or video, call out harm to our lands, our air, wildlife, whatever you see as an injustice that's happening to our environment, you get to call it out. And I will be calling out my university in the coming weeks with both a social media post and an email chain that's going to be going around. And with that, I'd like to give you guys another little bit of action you can take. We have another petition for everyone to review and sign. We are asking that you ask President Biden to revoke or stop Formosa Plastics building permit. So there's a 2,300 acre Formosa Plastics complex that would be built in a predominantly Black district of the St. James Parish in Louisiana's Cancer Alley. And in the last decade, cancer risk from industrial pollution in St. James Parish has increased by 600%. This complex will put out 13.6 million tons of greenhouse gases each year and double toxic air emissions in the St. James Parish. So I'll put that link in the chat. And Darren, could you please introduce yourself and let us know what you think about this plant?
Yes, so my name is Darren, and I'm part of the youth board at Clean Earth for Kids. And I specifically look at clean air and pesticides and climate change as a whole. And so Team 5, when I work with Team 5, I look at specific toxic chemicals and pesticides to protect children's health, public health, water, air, soil, and how it has effects on the ecosystem and our climate. So specifically on the matter of the plant, I think that plastic pollution and industrial pollution as a whole is a huge problem in our society, and it poses many health problems in the long run. And specifically, I believe that plastic products are not sustainable, and especially single-use plastics. And to support a clean and safe environment for people and future generations, we need to stop building these structures and factories, because not only is it bad for the environment, but it contributes to air pollution. And is one example of why this is one reason why this issue is environmental and racial. One of the big issues about this plant is that it's built in a Black community, and this is just one example of why you are impacting them specifically, and this causes them to have worse air pollution than other communities. So now on another topic, there's hopeful news on Switzerland pesticides. And so in Switzerland, they'll be voting to stop using pesticides in farming and agriculture. So on June 13th, Swiss voters will decide whether to make their country the first in the world to ban all the toxic pesticides. And if they do it, the battle for the bees will be forever transformed, and it could start a pesticide-free revolution that we can push. And this is something we can try to spread country by country until our fields and playgrounds and food are safe by the poisons from Bayer's company. And so Switzerland could be the first country in the world to ban all pesticides, and I can put the link in the chat. And now here is Anna.
Thank you, Darren. Hi, again, my name is Anna. I am an intern and filmmaker with Clean Earth for Kids. I'm actually currently working on an informational video about pesticides and specifically pesticide drift. I'm also working on another video focusing on environmental justice And we are so excited to be partnering with NAACP and Yusuf Miller and Naeem. Thank you all so much for your brilliant work fighting for equity. This needs to be recognized on a global level. So thank you for that. Just want to shout that out. But I would like to share a draft that we have currently going of a list of cities, parks, playgrounds, school districts, and universities with an IPM policy to stop pesticides, specifically synthetic pesticides or man-made pesticides. So this list is currently adapted from Poison-Free Malibu's list, and this is updated. It's currently up to date from June 1st, 2021. So we'll have a link to that soon. But this list gives us great inspiration to see other cities who do not use toxic pesticides. And yeah, here's some of Judith's wonderful artwork, Be Pesticide Free. So on Thursday, June 24th at 5:30 Pacific time, we'll be welcoming Oak Park and the Goleta school districts, who are wonderful examples of having a pesticide-free policy. So for Oak Park, on all 6 campuses, they have adopted this pesticide-free policy. So they received a nationwide US Green Building Council and Green Schools National Network in 2018 for the Best Green Schools Award. So the school has a pesticide-free policy that does not allow for the use of pesticides unless it's an emergency situation. Goleta has a similar one where they only use pesticides in emergency situation. They also received a Santa Barbara County Green Award, and they adopted this pesticide-free policy in 2006. We're also shouting out Seattle University for having pesticide-free methods since 1998. So go them for doing this for such a long time. And we're also shouting out Pepperdine University, specifically Malibu campus, who's been maintaining landscaping completely organically without fertilizers, pesticides, or other harmful chemicals. So in 2014, Pepperdine phased out the use of rodenticides in favor of a poison-free pest management system. So they had perches that were installed throughout the campus to encourage natural predation by birds of prey, example, owls and hawks. So we'll have them accept this award for their 2020 pesticide-free policy, and they may share why they're proud of their work or why they adopted this in the first place and how important it is that they designed this to protect their health for their students and staff and community and the environment. So yeah, we'll also be congratulating the city of Malibu, their win at the Coastal Commission, and ask them about their plans for an educational campaign. So yeah, here is Elijah.
Thank you, Anna. We would also like to recognize Poison-Free Malibu for their work to stop rodenticides. Rodenticides are poisons that mice or rodents could eat. The problem is that hawks and mountain lions could eat the poison mice and get very sick or die. So Poison-Free Malibu protected hawks, mountain lions, and other animals by stopping Malibu and other cities from using mouse poisons or rodenticides. Instead of poison, there are many common sense strategies on our cleanerforkids.org website. And here's the link to Poison-Free Malibu. And here's Anna.
Yes, thank you. So something else we want to bring attention to is an action you can take to please ask Amazon, the biggest online retailer in the United States, to stop selling neonicotinoids. So neonicotinoid pesticides, or neonics, are deadly to bees, which is a very important pollinator, and it's the most widely used insecticide in the world. So they're found in 50% of children ages 3 to 5 years old and linked to hurting kids in the nervous system and brains. And this is super important. So we will throw the petition link into the chat along with some more information that you could follow up with. So thank you. Here is Abby.
Thank you, Anna. Did you guys know that according to the Center for Effective Government, a nonprofit based in Washington, D.C., that less than 1% of the 84,000 chemicals used in the United States are tested for safety? So many of these pesticides being used in the US are banned in many other countries. A list showing which countries have been banned certain pesticides was compiled by the Pesticide Action Network, along with Beyond Pesticides and many other organizations doing this very, very important work. You can also see this shouted out on cleanearthforkids.org. One example of this is fipronil. It is used at the Vista Unified School District, an insecticide that is banned in 36 countries. It's linked to cancer, endocrine disruption, reproductive effects, neurotoxicity, and kidney and liver damage. It's toxic to birds, fish, and other aquatic organisms, and bees. Jillian, can you talk to us about proof of safety?
Absolutely. Thank you, Abby. So the EPA relies on unpublished, industry-funded studies to decide safety. They only test for the active ingredient. So the actual product that's bought and used is not tested. And the CDC reports that the average American has traces of 29 different pesticides in their bodies. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's safe. So a term you're going to hear a lot is burden of proof. In the US, chemical companies don't have to prove that their products are safe. It's up to regulators to prove that they're dangerous. So that means it took over 50 years to ban lead paint, and asbestos is still allowed in certain products. So the burden of proof needs to be on manufacturers instead of regulators to prove that it's safe instead of proving that it's dangerous. And that means that the EPA has to use good science. Right now, they use industry-funded studies and only look at active ingredients. They don't actually test the products that people are using. So again, just because something is legal doesn't mean it's safe. In the United States, we are not using the precautionary principle, which is used in Europe. Essentially, this means if something has the potential for harm and it doesn't have enough research or testing around it, it shouldn't be introduced into the market. In the United States, we do the opposite. We assume that things are safe until they're proven to show that people get cancer or other serious illnesses from them. Industry is making the pesticides fund studies, and those studies are then allowed to be used in determining safety. And you can see how there could be a little bit of a issue with those studies, because those companies want to get their products pushed out onto the market. We can share the pesticides being used in different cities, counties here in the US. So if you would like to know some of those, please reach out to us. We have the resources. We get this information by requesting public records, and we research pesticides on our own. And then we look at the list of pesticides that are being banned in other countries, because usually that's a good indicator of whether or not something is safe. And I believe I'm going to turn it over to Anna.
Yeah, thank you so much. So the health and safety of the children, expectant mothers, and other people who are at higher risks, students, along with everyone in the community, should be the #1 priority. So please help us do everything that we can to protect the health and safety of these people, these animals, and the environment. So if you're interested in getting involved or have ideas, you may write them or chat or contact us with at our Clean Earth for Kids website. And here is Jillian again.
Thank you. So we're challenging everyone to find out if their city, school district, and their universities use pesticides or are free of toxic pesticides. And here's Abby to talk a little bit about how to get records from your city or school district.
Thank you. So in California, there are a lot of tools that anyone can use to get more information about pollution. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is trackingcalifornia.org. Leanna is going to drop this link in the chat. Thank you, Leanna. So trackingcalifornia.org can be used to map out things like air pollution, lead poisoning, agricultural pesticide use, and water quality, as you can see on the screen. I'm going to show you a little bit at how it looks to look at agricultural pesticide use. So first step is obviously to go to trackingcalifornia.org. And then you enter your city, town, or zip code, and then the mapping tool will then update for that area. Step 2 is to then click on a square to get more information. So the tool will provide us with more information on the sum pounds of pesticides, the treated acres, and the rate of pounds per acre. And then the legend in the bottom right corner is helpful to gauge the amount of pesticides used in this area. You can also look further into the time series table and charts of the top 10 pesticides. So we have another great tool. This is called Enviroscreen. So Enviroscreen is a mapping tool from the California Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment. The map, so it maps the pollution burden in communities and toxins like pesticides. And Leanna's going to be so kind as to drop that link in the chat as well, for you guys to use that. So like Tracking California, you can also use it to look at agricultural pesticide use and other pollution. So we can take a look at the pesticide use in the San Diego area. So you go to Enviroscreen, and then you can search for any place in California like San Diego County. And then the darker the color, the more pesticides are being used. So as you can see, most pesticides are used in the North County, and we can zoom in there as well. And then you can click on any more area to get information. So you can see that this piece of land has over 10,000 pounds of pesticides are being used in every square mile. So that is higher than 98% of any other areas in California. And the main pesticide used in California is, oh my goodness, I wrote this down, this translation, because for some reason I can't say it, chloropicrin. So it is used as a soil fumigant. So this means that it's a gas they put into the soil to kill pesticides, and it's banned in 35 countries. So they put tarps down, and then they will pump in the chloropicrin under it. Instead of using solarization, just using the sun and tarps, as Leanna will explain, they use toxic chemicals are pumping in. Also, did you know that this was used in chemical warfare during World War I in large amounts, and it was actually banned for military use around the world, and yet we're still spraying our farms with it? So it doesn't really make sense. And once you know what pesticides are being used, you can then start to look at them and see what is banned and what are the health risks with those. And here's Darren.
Thank you. So last week we shared about the number of pesticides that are banned in various countries. And so the US only bans 15 pesticides. And so just to give a comparison to other countries, China has banned 51 and the UK has banned 175. And this also goes into other areas where we've talked about the US as using over 1 billion pounds of pesticides every year. And so we must stop using them because they have negative impacts on our health, especially in cases when used in schools, nearby fields, and areas where people are nearby. And so due to the health impacts and risks of pesticides from drift, we advocate for no pesticide use, and especially in areas where people live. And improving human health will increase our quality of life and even our lifespan. So this is really important, and pesticides are a really big deal. So Clean Earth for Kids has resources to track what chemicals are banned in specific countries on our Team 5 Stop Toxic Pesticides and Chemicals page. Another thing I'd like to talk about is how pesticides are a racial, social, and climate and environmental issue, because a majority of our farm workers and people who apply get exposed to pesticides as people of color. And so just to give you an example of things you can do to stop pesticides in your community, you can inform your students, staff, and people about this pressing issue, because awareness is one of the first important things about being informed about these issues. You can support Clean Earth for Kids in a new, stronger, integrated pest management IPM program, and we're hoping the city will make the farm comply with this program. You can write a letter to the county or to the city of Oceanside. You can write a letter to the Vista and Oceanside school boards. And yeah, those are the 5 things you can do. So now here's Alicia to talk about Team 5, the Healthy Schools Act, and more steps you can take. So we're here to help.
Thank you. Here's the Healthy Schools Act. The California Healthy Schools Act was passed in 2000 and expanded in 2015. It gives parents and staff the right to know about what pesticides are being used in public schools and child care centers. School districts and child care centers are required to establish an IPM plan and report pesticide use annually to the California Department of Pesticide Regulation, aka the DPR, who is in charge of running the HSA. They must also post warning signs where pesticides are used at least 24 hours before, 72 hours afterwards. The state unfortunately did not pass a ban on glyphosate in public schools. Anna T, you talked about school districts that have stopped using pesticides.
Yes, thank you. So there are school districts that are not using pesticides. So Goleta Union School District and Oak Park School District are two examples of school districts that are not using pesticides. And these are two school districts that we will be awarding, super exciting. There are links to their IPM programs and other examples on our cleanearthforkids.org under the Team 5 page, Stop Toxic Chemicals and Pesticides. And now here is Jillian to talk about pesticides in the Vista Unified School District.
Thank you so much. So here, first starting out is a quick list of how you can find out what's being used in your city and school district. So first, you need to obtain a list of what, where, and when pesticides are being used. If you're looking up records for a city, you should fill out a free public records request form on the city's website. Next, you need to compare your list to the PAN spreadsheet, which I'll go into a little bit more of what that is, to see which pesticides are banned in China, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, and the EU, along with other countries, but are allowed in the US in your city or school district. Look up active ingredient pesticides on the Beyond Pesticides website. The list is going to be shocking, so definitely find alternatives to offer your city or school to stop the use of pesticides. And there are some great resources, and we are happy to help. For college campuses program, also for college campus programs to help beautify and remove weeds, please check out the Herbicide-Free Campus. So back to what PAN, or the Pesticide Action Network, is. Basically, they're an organization that maintains a spreadsheet of what pesticides are banned by what country. You can look at pesticides used in your area and see if they're banned in the world. For example, Brazil has banned 131 pesticides, the EU 175, Switzerland 140, and so on. I'll put the link in the chat when I get done talking so you can see that for yourself. Another great tool to use is Pesticide Gateway by Beyond Pesticides. Here you can look up the product or ingredient and see the health effects and the supporting research to go along with it. You can look up the health effect first, like endocrine disruption, and see what sort of pesticides cause that particular effect. And here we'll look at cyfluthrine, which is an insecticide that is on the list to be used at Vista Unified School District and is hopefully still not being used. We would like to acknowledge that Vista Unified School District and other school districts are working for change, so it's our job to do the research and help them out. We should connect school districts and cities with resources, experts, and organic land management. We want to make sure that we provide solutions that are at little to no cost to stop the use of pesticides, because money is also an issue brought up in this argument. And we want to connect people with research doctors and experts in public health, because ultimately this is a public health issue. As you can see, it's linked to reproductive effects, neurotoxicity, and kidney and liver damage. It's also toxic to birds, bees, and fish, yet it is sprayed in schools. And I'll put the link in the chat for the Pesticide Gateway tool. And now here is Darren.
Hello, so I'm here to talk about Darren Marlowe's videos, which is, I'm a different Darren, just to clarify. So kids should be able to play in parks and go to school without toxic pesticides. And so you can check out Film Darren's videos on our website and YouTube about healthy soil. So healthy soil is a good foundation to help things grow. And the soil is different in different parts of the country. So in Southern California, the soil can have high salinity, which means a lot of salt, because one of the main water sources for Southern California is the Colorado River. And so based on the soil, there are different things that you can do. There's natural compost, there's tea, there's gardening with and there's like other tips which you can look into from Darren Marlowe's videos. And you can learn other tips and tricks on cleanearthforkids.org and on our YouTube page. And healthy soils are also less dependent on fertilizers. So we also have ways to protect the soil. And so one of the issues with the soil that we're using today is that they have man-made synthetic fertilizers which contain pesticides as pre-treatment. And one of the things that are important about soils, the microorganisms that live within the soil, and this is called soil microbes. And this includes fungi, bacteria, and other microorganisms. And these are important to make nutrients and soluble minerals to prevent nutrient loss. And they give water and easily obtainable and guard against pests and pathogens for trees and other plants. I'm here to talk about permaculture now. So using organic fertilizers is an important start, and using permaculture and organic farming practices protects they protect the soil and are better alternatives than pesticides. So please visit our YouTube channel to hear from our friends, farmers and permaculture expert, George. And we're looking forward to George returning to us to teach us all the more. So there's also a video by our consultant Marlo, who has a lot of amazing videos about conserving water, using pots and small spaces to grow fruits, vegetables, and herbs on her property without toxic pesticides. You can also see more of Marlo's videos on our YouTube channel and organic gardening and water conservation. So we're working to protect wildlife in public lands, city and county parks. And now we have Anna.
Thank you, Darren. If you would like to nominate a gardener or a person that's not using synthetic or man-made toxic pesticides, please let us know. You can also nominate a pesticide-free school, university, city, business, neighborhood, or HOA, a homeowners association that does not use toxic pesticides. So please contact us at cleanearthforkids.org. You are welcome to send quotes or pictures sharing what led to the policy decision and how you implement pesticide-free practices, along with any strategies or tips and why it's important to your students, staff, parents, and community. And now I will pass it to Jillian again.
Thank you, Anna. You may access our cleanearthforkids.org website, our YouTube channel, and the Team 5 page, showing our actions and dedication to stopping toxic chemicals and pesticides. It's very inspiring to know that know about all of the people working for change.
Yeah, I agree. And just to shout out, something we're currently attending is the 2021 Beyond Pesticides National Pesticide Forum. If you register now, you can actually go back and watch past presentations, so you won't be missing out on anything at all. So some upcoming dates are Tuesday, June 8th and Tuesday, June 15th. I will put the registration link in the chat in a moment. And tonight we are going to be sharing some important information about steps and actions you can take to stop pesticides at your school, school district, university, or city, and how you can join us to take action on a state and federal level. So we look forward to working with you. We can always work together for change and support school districts, cities, and others with ideas and strategies and practical solutions. So we have resources on our website and are connected to some of the best experts. We must protect public health and the environment. That is our #1 priority. And also stopping toxic pesticides are important for climate action because healthy soils absorb carbon. So I'll talk a little bit more about pesticides. Really shocking fact is that, did you know that over 20,000 US farmers each year get pesticide poisoning? And this is because they get carried home on clothing and the skin of farm workers, which in turn puts their families and children at risk. So what is pesticide drift? Pesticide drift describes the phenomenon of an airborne particle of a pesticide moving and landing in residential areas, wildlife habitats, and so much more, where it's not intended to go. So the EPA estimates up to 7 million pounds of pesticides are lost to drift each year. So here we have Darren to talk a little bit more about pesticides.
Yes, so one example of a pesticide is dicamba, which is an organophosphorus pesticide, and it has damaged and destroyed millions of acres of crops in at least 25 states, and this has caused huge financial losses for thousands of farmers across the country. So on June 3rd of 2020, a federal court overturned the EPA's approval of dicamba, and the ruling of the U.S. Court of Appeals in the Ninth Circuit found that the EPA, quotes, substantially understated the risks of dicamba herbicides and failed entirely to acknowledge other risks. So farmers have continued to use it, which has caused a lack of sufficient regulation. And a majority of the field workers growing our food are Hispanic. And just to let you know that people living in farming rural communities face a racial inequality because of it's correlated to why Latino children are 91% more likely than white children to be exposed to the highest levels of pesticides. So additionally, people of low economic status face economic barriers that prevent them from buying organic food, which do not use synthetic or highly toxic pesticides. And one of the problems with being low economic status is that you cannot afford to purchase organic food, and this is a problem that we need to address. And now we're back to Anna.
Yeah, so we're gonna jump ahead a little bit to Dr. Sarah Evans. This is one of the people on the National Pesticide Conference. She's a speaker, and she's also an assistant professor at the of Environmental Science and Public Health at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. And she presented in the conference last week, and I will share a little bit of information about pesticides and health. So Jillian and I will be discussing information about exposure to pesticides during pregnancy and early childhood and the association with impairments in cognition and behavior. So in one study that Dr. Evans shared with us by Columbia researchers found that prenatal or before the baby is born, exposure to pesticides, specifically looking at chlorpyrifos, it's associated with changes in brain structure in children. This is seen through an MRI. I will link the study she is referring to in the chat in a little bit. But this is really staggering evidence. Not only are we seeing changes in behavior, but in brain structure itself. So I will pass it over to Jillian again.
Thank you, Anna. So as you'll remember, Trump brought chlorpyrifos, which we've talked about a lot on this panel. It's an organophosphate pesticide, and it is a neurotoxin, which means it impacts the brain and how it functions, which is really important because your brain controls a lot of essential functions of your body. It was patented by Dow in 1996, and as written by Earth Justice, chlorpyrifos is acutely toxic and associated with neurodevelopmental harms in children. People are exposed through residues on food and in drinking water and by toxic spray drift from pesticide applications. Prenatal or before birth exposure to chlorpyrifos is associated with lower birth weight, reduced IQ, loss of working memory, attention disorders, and delayed motor development. Now, Trump bought back chlorpyrifos after a $1 million donation from Dow Chemical, so you can see how there can be a little bit of corruption in the way that politicians and chemical companies work, but the court-ordered ban on all food uses went into place. And what we're asking for is that the EPA go to ban all uses, because just on food is not enough. And I will put a petition in the bio that you can sign from Earth Justice that talks exactly about this. And I'll pass it back over to Anna.
Thanks so much. Yeah, so as Dr. Evans shared with us, many of these organophosphates were banned for residential use, but then replaced by pyrethroids and neonicotinoids. And these replacements are proving to be toxic to developing nervous systems. So even the replacements are still damaging to our health. And one study found that prenatal residential proximity to agricultural organophosphate, pyrethroids, neonicotinoids, and manganese fungicides are associated with decreased IQ in children ages 7. So again, this is really staggering evidence and should be really alarming to us all. Another study that's linked down there is a pyrethroid exposure is associated with increased behavioral problems in children, which is not all that surprising that we're seeing these behavioral issues because pesticides are designed to be toxic to the nervous system, which in turn disrupts communication between the nerve cells. So again, this is extremely alarming and should be looked into a lot more. I'm also going to share some more information that Dr. Evans presented in the National Pesticide Forum. She specifically looked at how children are uniquely vulnerable when talking about pesticide exposure and how it contributes to health problems over the course of a lifespan. So like we've been talking about, and we all know that pesticide leads to chronic diseases like asthma, diabetes, allergies, cancers, developmental disabilities, the list goes on. And this has all increased over the past few decades. So again, children are uniquely vulnerable. And as Dr. Evans said in her presentation, children are not just little adults. So not only is their unique physiology makes them more susceptible to these issues, but some other factors include that they're closer to the ground. They're more likely to place their hands on surfaces or put their hands in their mouths. They breathe faster and they eat a less varied diet and they eat and drink more than their body weighs. So these are all really important factors as to why children are more susceptible to these health problems. And all these factors make it really important that we keep pesticides out of our homes and off our school campuses, parks, public lands, businesses, everywhere really, right? So pesticides and looking at neurotoxicity, again, not only do we see links to changes in behavior, but like I mentioned earlier, changes in brain structure. So this disrupts communication and leads to these behavioral and cognitive issues. So something else that's really important to point out, we mentioned a little bit earlier in this panel discussion, but in some cases, the active ingredient makes up less than 1% of the pesticide. So not just the active ingredient are causing these issues. Synergists and mixers might have greater health impacts than the active ingredient. And Caroline Cox, another presenter from the National Pesticide Forum, said that pesticides have too many secrets. And I couldn't agree more. There's too many secrets behind these, and the pesticide companies, a lot of people are shocked to learn, but they're actually the ones conducting this, like the safety and health testing for the product themselves. So it's actually not the government in a lot of cases, but the pesticide companies themselves who are selling the product are conducting these health and safety tests. So we're spraying our homes and schools with these products that we don't even know what's in them and are causing detrimental health effects to our children and one another. So thankfully, there are some simple steps to avoid pesticide exposure other than just simply not using them. You can leave your shoes at the door. You can wash your hands frequently. You can clean your home frequently to keep a dust-free space. Opting for organic foods, and reducing exposure as your power as a consumer. So if you are able to purchase organic foods, as you probably heard the quote before, you vote with your dollar. So making those really important steps with your power as a consumer. So yeah, I will pass it over to Jillian.
Right, I'm going to talk a little bit about endocrine disruptors, which is what some of these pesticides are. So basically, an endocrine disruptor is something that disrupts the way that the endocrine system or your hormones in your body work. These are very, very dangerous because they can lead to some pretty negative health effects that include reproductive impacts. It can involve like neurological damage to your brain and stuff like that. And it also is how you can damage your vital organs, such as like your thyroid and stuff like that. So endocrine disruptors are pretty dangerous, and a lot of these chemicals that people come in contact with are through inhalation or putting things in your mouth. So be sure to follow those steps to make sure you don't get any of these negative symptoms that you can see with these chemicals. And I'm going to pass it right back to Anna.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, another speaker from the National Pesticide Forum, Dr. Leonard, cannot remember the last name, it's escaping me, excuse me, I'll find it later and throw it in the chat. But he shared a lot about how synthetic chemicals in the environment impact children specifically. And like Jillian was just sharing about endocrine disruptors, he broke down some basic terminology about how endocrines are signaling molecules and natural molecules that we use for pretty much every basic biological function. So maintaining body temperature, metabolism, salt, sugar, really important things. And the disruption is when synthetic molecules scramble that natural molecular signaling, which contributes to disease and disability. So something he shared with us was we know of about 1,000 synthetic chemicals that hack our natural molecular signals. And there's about 5 categories of chemicals. We're focusing on pesticides, but of course there's other chemicals that can do the same kind of damage to humans. And we know specifically about organophosphates. So we've seen consistent relationships between the mother and pesticide exposure. We have found it in urine, the baby's blood, and it decreases cognitive potential and so many more issues. One of them being thyroid function, which is a crucial growth factor, especially to the baby's brain development. So if you scramble the thyroid hormone in the middle of pregnancy, even in the clinically normal range, what is deemed as clinically normal, you can still get negative effects. Those negative effects being decreased IQ, autism, attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder, smaller frontal and parietal cortex in the brain, which again is alluding to those brain structure issues. So thank you so much for listening. Yusuf, do you have any comments about all our information?
Yes, I do. Thank you so much for having me. It was just so, I want to thank everyone so much for the education on pesticides. It's so important to all of us. And I was just blown away by the information. The pesticide-free schools locally, awesome. And then our youth here in this amazing group went all the way to Switzerland in their topic about how pesticides are being handled around the world and places that we can take an example from here locally in our nation. Thank you, Anna, for your creative video productions and your work on delivering an environmental justice video that's going to be spread community-wide so people can have more access to this information, not just reading, not just links and websites. That's important work that you do, and all of our video team, youth on Clean Earth for Kids that do all these. So it made me want to take a quick shower. And the shower is not good enough because these pesticides go inside of our bodies from what we've learned today from trackercalifornia.org. And it's just amazing that a war chemical is being used in our soil. How amazing is that? And that we have no sense to stop doing that. Our Latinx brothers and sisters, they work really, really hard in these fields to feed their families, and they have to bring these deadly pesticides back to their homes. So thank you for giving us all a great lesson on how we can help what the seriousness of this pesticides are throughout San Diego and its counties and the world, and gave us a lot of work to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone for being here. Just to let you know, well, a big shout out to everybody here, and happy birthday to people. Judith's birthday was yesterday or 2 days ago. Darren M. Film Darren's is in a couple of days. Hannah's was a few days ago. I know we have so many birthdays, and thank you guys for being so amazing. And I know people have tests and work and things, so thank you so much for all that you do. You are so appreciated. And thanks for all the good research and all of the hard work. Yes, thank you, Anna, for helping with the slides. And Jillian and Leanna and everything. A big shout out to Ashley. I'm so excited for you all to be able to see Ashley's work. I've known Ashley for 7 years. Anyway, really excited. So she'll be sharing the things she's doing in her organic garden, and we'll be able to share that on our Instagram and you know, not just social media, but here as well. So thank you for the great images. Thank you, Elijah, for being able to just, you know, quickly pick up and be such a strong leader in the making. So proud of you and all the important work that you're doing with NAACP Youth Council. So thank you so much. And Darren, thank you for your good work with researching and always being absolutely dependable and having the facts. And Abby, really excited about the new video that you created about our contest. You guys can see that on our YouTube channel. Anyway, so many wonderful people here. Can't shout them all out because we have to hop off. I will still be here. You guys may be hopping off, but I look forward to talking with you soon, and also to hearing that important conversation with Yusuf and his son Naeem. Naeem is learning a lot of information, and super happy to have him with us. So thank you guys so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing everyone